Hi everyone, welcome back to Digital Dreambox. In the last part, we set up our Maya project folder and gathered some references for our gas pump, and now we're ready to jump into the modeling phase. Before we begin though, I just want to mention, I'll try and keep this as beginner friendly as possible, but if you feel yourself getting a little bit lost, I do have that beginner Maya series that I created, and I'll post the link down below for you guys. But without further ado, let's jump right in and get started. Alright, welcome back. Let's take a look at what we'll be making. So here, we took a look at these last time, but we'll be working on the main cabinet today. And this is the one that I like, this one as well. So I'm just gonna move this off to the side. And before we start, I'll walk you through where our tools are and then timestamp it in case you forget what they are, and then you can go back to it. So for the hotkeys for the transform tools, I'll be using Q for select, W for move, E for rotate, and R for scale. If I had a cube in, maybe it's easier to see as well, right? There we go. And then for the modeling tools, I'll be using Maya's marking menu. So first, how to get to the component modes. You'll hold down the right mouse button, and this way you can get to the component modes. And then for the actual tools itself, hold down shift and the right mouse button usually brings up the modeling tools. All right, now let's start. Right now, I'm in the scale tool. I'm gonna go into the move tool by pressing W. And the first thing I wanna do is move this pivot to the bottom because I wanna scale this and I don't wanna scale it in both directions. So I'm gonna hold down D, then V, and drag this arrow to the bottom. I'm gonna let go, and then I'm gonna hold down X and drag this arrow up a little bit. And now it's sitting on our ground plane. Next, let's scale this out and block out the form a little bit. I'm gonna press R to go into scale. And then I'm just going to drag these boxes out a little bit and up. This is fine for now. We'll be reshaping a bit more later. All right, looks pretty good like that. And then what we wanna do is turn on symmetry. And symmetry works a bit better when you have an edge loop in the middle. So I'm gonna grab the multi-cut tool. It's up here. However, I'm gonna use the marking menu. I'm gonna hold down shift, the right mouse button, and choose multi-cut. And then I'm going to hover over an edge, hold down control, and then middle mouse click. That'll put an edge loop right in the middle. And now I can turn on symmetry. My x-axis is going this way. So I'm gonna go up to here and choose Object X. Right, and now what we wanna do is bevel this top edge. So let's first press Q to go back to our select tool, hold down the right mouse button and choose Edge Mode. Select this edge, hold down Shift to add to the selection, select this edge as well. And then what we wanna do is hold down Shift, the right mouse button, and choose Bevel. And what I'm going to do is drag this fraction up. And as I drag it up, you can see these edges coming together. If I were to give it a couple segments, you can see it round out a little bit as well. I'm gonna give it 4 segments, and I'm going to actually drag this fraction all the way up to 1. And as I drag it, by the way, if you drag this and it moves a little quick, just hold down Control and drag, and it won't be as strong. And what I'm going to do is drag it all the way up to 1 so that those two edges merge. When they merge, those vertices merge together as well, as long as they come together. And let's go back into vertex mode for a sec so I can show you guys. Right now, if I box select this vertex up here, you can see it shows as 2, and that's because we have this one as well, right? If you don't have this display, it's under display, heads up display, and poly count. All right. Let's go back into, let's actually go into face mode. So what I want to do next is, actually I changed my mind again. Let's go into object mode. So hold down the right mouse button, choose object mode, and then select this. And what I want to do is scale it out a bit because this is a little too round for my liking. So let's press R to go into the scale tool and drag this out until we have roughly the top, a curve for the top that we like. All right, I think that looks pretty good. And next, let's extrude this middle section. So holding down the right mouse button, choose face, and let's box select these faces. And then what we want to do is hold down Shift, the right mouse button, and choose extrude. And let's increase this thickness a little bit. I'm taking into account that we'll be scaling this up as well a little bit. So I'm going to make this side section a little bit thicker. There we go. Now what we want to do is extrude this face as well. So let's select it, hold down Shift, the right mouse button, and extrude. And in this instance, we can just drag this arrow out. And there we go. Maybe a bit further. There we go. All right. Now what I want to do is bevel this edge. So I'm going to hold down the right mouse button, go into edge mode, double click this, and let's bevel this. So hold down Shift, the right mouse button, choose bevel. There we go. And then let's give this a couple segments, or a couple extra segments, I should say. Right, I think that looks pretty good. And then let's control the rounding of this. We can play with the fraction. Again, what I'm going to do is just drag this fraction all the way up to 1 so that those two edges merge. Sometimes when you drag the fraction up to 1, it doesn't always merge. So you'll need to go in and probably delete that extra edge. In our case, it did. All right. And now what I want to do is extrude this face in here, but we have this n-gon here, so let's fix this first. So let's go into our multi-cut tool, hold down, let's first go into object mode, select our object, hold down Shift, the right mouse button, choose multi-cut, and then we can select this vertex up here. And if we hold down Control and Shift and hover over this bottom edge and stay relatively close to the middle, it'll add a cut straight down there, straight down the middle. There we go. Select that, and when you're done, press press Enter or the right mouse button. I prefer the right mouse button because I don't have to take my hand and try and find that Enter key. All right, now we have this n-gon over here as well, so let's select this vertex, go over here and connect to here, pressing that right mouse button. And then what I want to do is fix this n-gon as well. So I'm going to connect from here to here, and I might as well just continue on to over here as well, and then press Enter when you're done. And now we have quads everywhere. So if we go into edge mode, pressing Q to go into my select tool, we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Perfect. And now what we can do is extrude this section. And the reason we're doing this is later on, it helps with our shading, which I'll explain a little further on. Let's go into face mode though. Select this face, hold down Shift, and select all those ones as well. And let's extrude that section. So hold down Shift, the right mouse button, and extrude. And let's give this a bit of an offset. Something to about here is probably pretty good. Maybe a bit less. All right, and then what I want to do next is fix the bottom here because it extruded out and I really don't want that. So let's grab our multi-cut tool again. I'm going to click off so my face isn't selected anymore. I'm going to hold down Shift, the right mouse button. Actually, I need to select my object. So let's go into object mode, select the object, hold down Shift, the right mouse button, choose multi-cut. And over here, let's do the same thing. Select this vertex, hold down Control and Shift, and connect to there. Press the right mouse button to complete it, and then same thing over here. All right, let's go into edge mode. I still have my multi-cut tool, so I have to press Q, right? And then let's select this edge, hold down Shift, double click this one, and I'm gonna hold down Control and press Delete. And that way it deletes it, the edge or the edges as well as the vertices that are connected to them. All right. And now we can bevel this edge. So let's double click this edge, hold down Shift, right mouse button, and bevel. And what we will do here is give it probably just one extra segment is fine, right? We have to conserve geometry where we can, because this isn't going to be a high poly prop, right? All All right, that's done. And what that has allowed us to do is it's put a face, or sorry, it's that extra extrusion that we did earlier to offset this face and this one now are on the same plane. And that will help us with controlling the shading later on. Right. Now what I want to do is delete these bottom faces because I want to extrude out a base section and these faces will just get in the way. So I'm going to select this one, select these faces. I'm holding down Shift to select to add to the selection and then press delete. And now let's go into edge mode, double click this edge. And what we want to do is extrude it. So let's hold down Shift, the right mouse button, and choose extrude edge. What we want to do though is we don't really want to increase the thickness or the local translate Z. There's a potential problem, and it's that this comes to a point, right? So if we were to do this, these vertices eventually cross over. Just gonna undo that. What we want to do though is press R to go into our scale tool. And right now it's not at the center because we're in symmetry, but it shouldn't affect us in this case. Let's scale this out. And you can see now those vertices don't cross over. And if we want to scale up extra in any of these axes, we could grab this box or this one, right? But what I'm going to do is just bring that back a little bit. There we go. And then since we just extruded, we can press G to repeat our last action, right? And now we can, I think it's the thickness, right? Bring this down a little bit as well. Let's take a look. Looks pretty good. And then let's bevel this top edge. So go into edge mode, double click this edge, hold down Shift, the right mouse button, and bevel. Here we go. And I'm just going to maybe decrease that fraction just a bit. Right. The scale of this is a little bit off because we've been doing some extrusion and stuff, and we'll fix it in a bit. Next, what I want to do is add a display in the front, right? So let's grab our multi-cut tool again, hold down Shift, right mouse button. I did that again. Let's grab our object, hold down, by the way, I just went into object mode by holding down the right mouse button. And then select it, hold down Shift, right mouse button, and multi-cut. And then what we want to do is add an edge here that will be the top of the display. And the reason for that is we want edges away from any edges that start curving out. For example, here, right? So what I'm going to do is let's add first an extra edge here. And that'll be on the, basically distance us from this edge. And then let's add an edge for the top here, right? I'm holding down Control, clicking. And you can see when I added this edge here, it's not straight. It doesn't really hurt us, right? But let's straighten this edge. And the reason why it's not straight is this edge, right, has a bit of a curve, or it's changing direction. This one is straight, but it averages between the two of them, right? So let's grab that edge. Let's go into our select tool, hold down the right mouse button, choose edge, double click this. And to straighten this edge, first go into your scale tool, hover over this box, hold down Control and Shift, and just drag that box to the center. And now it's straight. And then let's go back into our multi-cut tool. And now anywhere we put an edge here, it'll be straight because this edge is straight and this one is straight. Now let's put an edge where the bottom of that front display will be, or at least roughly, because we'll be rescaling it a bit. I think that looks pretty good right there. And then what we want to do now is extrude this face here. Let's press Q to go back to the select tool, and let's first adjust this a little bit. Let's go into vertex mode. I'm going to box select all these vertices, press W to go into the move tool, and lift this up. Because if you look at some of these references, they're actually quite tall and slender. This one maybe is a little bit shorter, but this one, for example, these ones, right? So let's just lift that up a bit more. and maybe box select these vertices and drop this down just a touch. There we go. And if we want, we could even box select these ones and bring these out a little bit as well. There we go. Let's grab this face now, go into face mode. Let me check how we're doing for time. Not too bad. Okay, so let's select this face. I don't want these tutorials to get too long. Give me a sec while I turn this to silent. There we go. That was my phone. Okay, so we have this face selected, and let's extrude this. So hold down Shift, the right mouse button, and extrude. Great, and we want to give this an offset. There we go. Looks pretty good. I'll probably have to adjust the height of this display a little bit more after as well. But for now, it's fine. And what we want to do is go into edge mode, select these edges, and bevel. We're going to create a bit of a frame, right? And then let's adjust the fraction there. And that should be pretty good like that. We could exaggerate and make it a bit bigger if we want. All right, now let's extrude that out a bit. Let's go into face mode, select this face, or these faces I should say. Hold down Shift, the right mouse button, and extrude. Let's just pull this out. All right, looks pretty good. And then what I want to do is give this a bit of a rounding. And the reason is our object is fairly cubic, right? So anywhere where we can give it a bit of more change in form is kind of nice, right? So let's go into edge mode. I'm going to double click this edge, hold down Shift and double click this one. And then I'm going to unselect this one. So I'm going to hold down Shift again, select that one, and then hold down Shift and select that one to unselect those. And now let's bevel this. Hold down Shift, right mouse button, bevel. And then we can give this 1 or 2 segments extra, and then play with the fraction a bit as well. All right, there we go. We have some triangles here, but they don't hurt us because as I mentioned earlier, we have a bit of separation from where the curve starts, right? And then what we want to do is bevel this edge as well. So let's double click this one, hold down Shift, double click this one. And then let's bevel this. So I'm going to hold down Shift, right mouse button, bevel. And I'm probably going to leave that fraction alone, maybe play with it a little bit. Right. I think that looks pretty good. And this display, I wanted it to go in a bit more. So I'm going to hold down the right mouse button, go to face mode, select it, hold down Shift, right mouse button, and extrude, and just push it in a bit more. I think that looks pretty good. And then I don't need this edge anymore. So let's go into edge mode, double click this one, hold down Control, and then press Delete. All right, now we have this. And then what we want to do is, it's starting to get kind of long, so we'll wrap this up. Before we finish though, let's resize this to give it better proportion. Go into vertex mode, maybe box select these ones, press W to go into Move Tool, and lift this up just a little bit. There we go, I think that looks a bit better. And now let's give this a shinier material so we can inspect it. Because we'll need to inspect it as we go along to make sure it's working for us, because gas pumps are potentially shiny. So if you're texturing, you want pretty decent topology, right? Let's go into object mode, select it, hold down the right mouse button, choose Assign New Material, and I'm going to give it a blend. Right, our blend's already pretty shiny, but what we can do is select it, hold down the right mouse button, choose Material Attributes. That'll bring us this blend material, and then we can choose color and just drop that value, and that'll allow us to inspect this a bit better. And as you can see, right, the side here looks really good. There's consistent shading there. We do have some harder edges here that we can soften now or later if we want. We'll need to do it later, but we can do it now to give it a more consistent look if you want. So I'm going to double click this edge, maybe these ones. And then I'm gonna hold down Shift, right mouse button, choose Soften Harden Edge, and then Soften Edges, and that'll soften those out, and then we can check it, right? Looks pretty good. And then if you look here, you can see that we have some triangles here, but they don't really hurt us at all. And we'll talk more about it later, because when it comes to game topology, right, triangles are okay if they don't really impact our shading. And in this case, right, it's fine. But you can see we have, some n-gons here. So let me show you how to fix this real quick. Let's go into vertex mode for a second. I'm gonna open up the modeling toolkit, choose target weld. And what we can do is target weld here, hold down the left mouse button, just bring it to this point, right? And now we have a quad there, and we can do the same here. And there we go. I'm gonna press Q to go back to my select tool, and you can see that if I click off, go into object mode and click off, you can see the shading is totally consistent, right? Let's give this back the Lambert material. It's a little bit easier to model with. And also let's turn on wireframe unshaded, because we'll be working mostly in here later as well. It's just easier to see the mesh. I'm gonna close the modeling toolkit, and I think that'll wrap it up for this tutorial. And we will continue on in the next one when we start working on the rest of the gas pump. So see you guys then.